all from Northern California, so I'm just like, it's gonna rain a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, and they've already had so much.
Should be fun for the ski areas once they do some blasting to to reduce the avalanche risk.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely
Still
recommend
going.
check out Mount Shasta. Just go to like the Weather Service grid point forecast for Mount Shasta. That's one of the more enjoyable grid point forecasts.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think I was
that
looking
mountain
at
was
their.
one of the scariest moments of my life. I hiked it
Really?
and almost died. Yeah,
Nice.
it was.
Hey,
It was
we
beautiful.
are live. Phil's not here yet because he's got some technical difficulties, but just want to welcome the folks who are watching us live tonight, our Patreon members, and or anybody who may be watching the raw version of Stormfront Freaks later on when we release it to the public. After about a month, we generally release it to the public. And this is, of course, the raw version. You're going to see, you're watching tonight or you're watching later. You're going to see everything, all the outtakes, all the breaks, all the silly things that I get to cut out and edit later on when we edit it into an actual podcast, which is what we really do. So again, welcome everybody. And we'll just carry on with our pre-show conversation until we get Phil over here.
Nice.
So we got to take out our potty mouth.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to decide how hard
Get
we
out of
want
the
to
way
make
now,
MJ
Dina.
work
Get
tonight.
out of the
Yeah,
way
I
now.
should go back and do Dina. You are definitely in the running for the most edits. Just saying.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's my sister from another mister.
There you go.
That's
that
my
like,
girl.
I have to behave too much at work. So, you guys get the other
That's
side
right.
of it.
the moonshine part.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fair.
Definitely.
That's fair. We're your out, Dina, and we're happy to be that for you.
I know. It's like when we go chasing, it's like, I can't act this crazy at work. We gotta let loose here.
Yep.
Believe it, we were actually told on the morning show, they were like, you guys, it was the news director's not there anymore, but he was like, you guys stop being funny. You guys aren't. And everyone was like, we love you guys. You're hysterical and fun. And it was like, wow.
Jeez.
That's what the
Hey,
morning
we
show
got,
is.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey,
Burton's
Josh.
in the house. And our newest Patreon member who says,
Woo!
Ben, welcome.
Awesome.
They are
That's pretty ringing endorsement right there.
That sure is. I was all of a sudden getting an
That's
echo
money.
from somebody, but then it went away. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, weird stuff tonight. I don't know what's going on.
This is going to be a good one. First one of
Yeah.
the year.
Then
Phil's
Josh
going to get
adds,
such a good impression of us. I can't wait.
welcome to the peanut gallery.
We've just when Phil gets on, we've just got to let him have it. I mean, this
Didn't
is
he?
unacceptable.
Wasn't he having problems last time too? was
Yeah,
that like
it's
2
just
weeks
I
ago?
don't know. Phil's lately's just been slacking. I don't know.
There you go.
More or less.
Way
So how's
over.
everyone doing tonight, Maz? Maz, you doing good?
Doing great. Hey, Brady, got the Yeti.
Ooh,
got the Nice.
That was your secret Santa?
It. Love
Yeah,
it.
thank you, unsecret Santa.
How'd you figure it out? What the?
Yeah, your text helped.
Well, the last time we did this, I think I shipped it to the wrong address. I forget who I had last year, so
Ooh.
just wanted to make
Oh
sure. it
wow,
got
you
there.
shipped it to the wrong place.
Well, I think I was shipping it to Greg, if I remember. I don't know if any of you guys had Greg, but
I had Greg this year.
okay. Last year I tried to ship it to Greg, and I think I just wrote the Canadian address wrong, or I don't know what happened. But
Yeah, our one Canadian person.
Well, it's sometimes hard to pinpoint the van exactly where it is.
Well, yeah.
yeah.
There's
Well,
that.
I was yeah, I was like trying to talk to I don't even know if there's a Canadian government or the Canadian shipping service, whatever that is. I was talking with them, and it was just like, nope, we don't have it. I'm like, all right, well,
You didn't
It's
use
gone.
enough. Didn't use enough A's and a boots and
apparently not.
I was going to say, but I'm sure they were very pleasant about it. Sorry, we lost
They were
your
very
package.
pleasant, but
Sorry.
just not helpful.
We don't know where the moonshine is, but thanks.
I have it. Don't
but it
worry.
was good.
Yeah.
Do you actually have it, Dina? Where do you get moonshine? Because that's what I want to know.
It's
Because
at the liquor store. But I get like a blackberry one. In
is that a
fact,
normal
Jen
thing at liquor
Watson
stores?
gave
Because
me
I don't know. Maybe
like
I'm not going to the moonshine section, but
it's called oh god, it drawing a blank. I'll send you a picture of it, but you mainly put other fruit juices in it, so it tastes really good. You don't really taste a lot of alcohol, but it's now you got to get a flavored one because Jen Watson gave me a regular unflavored one once. It was so horrible. Like it could take off my nail polish.
Good old white
White
lightning.
lightning. White
What
What are you
lightning.
saying? Could you walk into like a Publix or like a Kroger and get a moonshine? No,
No, not this one. I'm trying to think of
because I thought they were
What
like
it's called.
homemade, like you know.
oh no.
That's the drinking water of my people. You don't get it in
Yeah.
a store around my neck of the woods.
Exactly. That's what I.
You
It's
just have
actually
to know
made
the
by
right people.
DHS, isn't it, Dina?
Oh,
Dina
here it is.
Home
Old
Skill?
Smoky. Old Smoky Moonshine.
Oh, wow.
Jackson's Gatlinburg. They took off pretty good, but the good stuff you won't find mainstream. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to get that crazy, but unless we're chasing, then I might do it.
Yeah, see, I don't think I've ever had moonshine. So if I'm gonna have it, I feel like I'm gonna reach out to Garrett and get
Now,
Garrett.
who
some
knows if
There you
that's
go.
really what it is, but that's the name they go by.
it's
Sure.
close. I mean, but the real deal, it's on a whole other level.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
Garrett, the real stuff doesn't have a label, does it?
Right. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
Right.
is called
It's
Old
just in a
Smoky
jar.
Moonshine. You can see it.
Okay.
Hey, Brady. Hey, Brady.
What's up?
Are you there? Hey, we had Hobgood over at our house.
Wait,
And he
no
brought the
way.
other-
No, you did not.
This is back in college. This is back in
Oh.
college.
Okay.
We had him and the other professors over, and one of them brought moonshine. I'm pretty sure he made it himself.
Oh, wow.
God.
And oh yeah,
Hot.
yeah,
That
it
was
was.
it, Hobgood?
Oh,
It was hot. Well, no, he didn't have the moonshine, but he was there, and he's
Oh,
different
sure.
when he drinks. Just saying.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we
That was
You
fun.
took-
Good times.
I was gonna say, I was like thinking you said, yeah, you had him over yesterday, and I was like,
I
Yeah.
know.
Wow.
like,
Wait, Jay, come on in here. Would
Besides,
you?
he
Come
drinks
here, Jay.
Heineken.
Just keeping him in the closet.
That's right.
By the way, our newest Patreon member is none other than our guest from our bonus episode, our last.
Oh,
bonus
no
episode,
way.
Jeremy Bauer.
Hi, Jeremy.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Very nice.
JB.
So I don't know where you live, Phil, exactly. I imagine you're near Colorado State.
Pretty
But
subtle.
someone, and everyone's going to kind of like this. I had someone send me a link today to a map, and you guys got to hear some of the street names in this neighborhood. Lightning Court, Laminar Court, Stratus Road, Waterview
Wow.
Street, Thunderview Drive.
Nice.
It's a really interesting, majestic view drive. Anyway, there's this neighborhood with lots of weather names. Go back, phone.
Nice.
It's
Is this in Colorado?
yeah, it's in Timnath, Timnath, Colorado.
Hmm.
I don't even know where
Phil-
that is.
That's
Phil, don't
just
say where you
east of
live.
Fort- What was
It
that?
is.
You're live, Phil.
Yeah, you're live. Don't say where.
Oh
you're
no, I
at.
was saying
Don't
that's
say
just
where you
east of
live.
Fort Collins.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I thought that was so cool. Apparently it used to, my friend said it used to have a rundown bar that was fun to drink at. That was kind of rowdy, but it's all subdivisions out there now. And I'd
Yeah.
like to know who named this one because I like this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I suspect that the builder probably has a friend or someone, spouse maybe, who's a what. There's the weather weenies geeks along the Front Range per capita is extremely high. Hence, whenever there's a tornado along the Front Range, it's like the most photographed one because everyone's like, "Oh my gosh!" So yeah. So today, I'm sure there were some pictures of lenticular clouds floating about from our general vicinity. There were some pretty good cap clouds today. Nice wave clouds, which foiled the Colorado snow removal plan, which is wait for the sun to come out. And when it doesn't come out, the roads are all sheets of ice. So
Yes.
very thankful for my spikes to get around the neighborhood these days.
Awesome. Oh, that's cool.
just got a notification. Time to post my B reel. Everyone smile.
Hey.
Your Be Real.
Yeah. What
Does
is
anyone do
B-Reel?
B reel?
Yes,
No,
I
Oh,
know
God,
what that
that's
is,
the worst
but I
picture I've
don't
ever
do it.
taken in my life. Whatever.
That was
That's the great thing about
B-roll.
B reel.
Brady, when are you
Thanks.
going to get your tooth fixed?
I
No.
don't know.
Come on,
they keep
man,
telling
it's
me.
been
They keep telling me.
months.
2 months, 3 months. I'm like, come on, what are we doing? I think it's at the end of February. I'm going to Mexico for like 2 weeks
To have it done?
Don't get it
No,
fixed there, Brady.
no,
Stop.
no.
Don't.
for a wedding, and then our buddies are staying back, and we're all going to, like, 20 of us are going to Cancun, which is wild. But yeah, so I was like, I wanted to wait till after that,
Because that look might be good for you there in Mexico.
well,
right?
you know,
you never
I,
know.
I preferably would want to have all my teeth when I go to Mexico, but
wow.
this didn't work
Hey
out.
Brady, when you go to Cancun, Get your friends, all of y'all, drive out to Chichen Itza.
Oh yeah,
Chichen
for
Itza.
sure. Yep.
It's a Condé Nast place, but on the way there, you're like, where the heck
Oh
am
yeah,
I?
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll write
God.
that down.
Can you
What is
imagine
it?
Brady though with a bunch of guys like on Bachelor Party, the movie, like getting totally just drunk and act shit faced and acting like a moron with a bunch of
MJ,
men?
is that an edit?
I was gonna say I see
No,
that is on the
no,
way.
this is raw. This is raw. We don't.
It's the raw. We can swear.
Oh,
raw.
okay,
Well,
okay.
we can swear. We just,
We have an
Phil's-
extended raw today.
Well, somehow it gets muted out, so I don't know how that happens. It must be the magic editing fairy.
Our-
but, you know.
Our host Phil is having hot mic issues, and he's now
Oh,
ditching the
good
mixer
Lord.
and going to join
wow.
us. So that means more editing for me later, but
Right.
he'll be.
Well, Phil, thanks for coming tonight, and
Yes.
that's about it for the show.
Yes. A great show. Good to have you. We'll, that was a great show, everybody. Thanks. We'll see you again.
See you in 2 weeks. Who's
That's
our next
right, yeah.
guest?
That's it.
Wait, Phil's here. Let's all give him
Oh
a
wait,
round of
he's here.
applause.
All right, now I got you.
Yay.
Any better?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going old school.
Oh gosh, he's
Ooh.
got the handheld. You got the handheld.
Welcome. Hey, what's your name?
Oh my God, please do this Bob Barker style.
Sorry about that. Hey, Phil, welcome.
Hello, thanks. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Sorry about the time mix-up, by the way.
No worries.
Fat finger problem. All right. Well, I assume everybody's ready.
We're ready.
Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I need a drink. All right. So let's do the teaser. Coming in 3, 2. Hey, Storm Freaks, it's Phil. We welcome first-time guest and tropical storm forecaster Dr. Phil Klotzbach to the studio tonight. And we'll be shaking things up with our hashtag Weather Fools and a familiar-sounding potty mouth forecast. It's all on episode 174 of the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
All right.
Woo.
Maz, you ready for
Boom.
the intro?
Yeah,
Is that your Bengal orange? Is that what that is?
it is. Thanks for noticing.
I gotta laugh at Jeremy's comment though. Fashionably late, Phil. I mean Jonas.
Yeah. So
funny,
Jeremy's
Phil. Funny. He's
a
joking.
so you guys, Jeremy was our top 10 countdown guy.
Yep,
And I saw that he
we've-
just joined our Patreon group. But Jeremy, with comments like that, might be your last time as a Patreon. No, I'm kidding.
He gets an extra T-shirt
It's
with comments
good
like
having
that.
you.
Yeah.
He does. He should.
As long as they're coming from you guys, that's fine. All right, so here we go. We're ready. So I'm going to do our intro. I'm going to mention the Storm Chaser Summit. We'll do our happy hour roundtable. Maz, you can introduce Phil, and then we'll go about 25 minutes or so, and then we'll take a break. I'll throw something in the private chat. And yeah. Phil, you got any questions?
I don't think so.
So this might be a little bit different weather podcast than you're used to, meaning we're a little more fun and loose and
More rowdy.
so I will tell you this because you're definitely smarter than me and might be smarter than the entire group here.
Collectively, yes.
I always tell people that like if you get into really technical sciencey terms, just explain them. Like if you're
Sure.
using acronyms, explain what that acronym is and stuff like that. Because we get
You're
a
not
lot
even
of
explaining
listeners.
to the audience. You're just explaining it for me, honestly.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend we don't know and be like, "What?"
All right, so guys, we don't have any sound, so no audience clapping and all that fun stuff. I'll try and figure something out at the break. But so we are coming in. 3, 2. Hey, welcome to the most entertaining weather podcast. This is the award-winning Stormfront Freaks podcast, and it's brought to you by the Drive Weather app. So Drive Weather's interactive time slider, it updates the weather forecast along your route based on your departure time in real time. So it tells you what the weather's going to be like 300 miles down the road when you're 300 miles down the road, which is pretty cool. So have a safer trip by finding the best time to leave and avoid the bad weather. So add it to your phone at driveweatherapp.com or your app store. Hey, thanks to our Patreon teammates. We love you all. Thanks for supporting the show. We got new Patreon teammate Jeremy Bauer, who did our top 10 countdown episode that we just had. So Jeremy, welcome. And then we've got, I'm going to quick check. We got Josh Burnham, looks like is back there. And then we got our superstar trio VIPs. So I see Angela and Dan and Garrett are all here as well. So thanks for joining us. You can also join our Patreon team. We've got multiple levels of perks and exclusive merch. You can find our Patreon link at stormfrontfreaks.com. And again, thanks for joining the team. So, question, how many of you are planning on heading to the National Storm Chasers Summit? 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 3.5. It looked like there was, Angela's kind of waving her hand a little bit. But so the 2023 National Storm Chasers Summit, if you haven't yet, I'm telling you what, you're running out of time. So join the freaks. I'm going to be there. Serena's going to be there. Jen is going to be there. I saw Dan waving his hand. Angela was kind of the halvesy there, but hopefully she'll be there. This is February 3rd through the 5th. It's near Oklahoma City. They're planning to do, it's a 3-day event this year, so it's kind of cool. They're planning to do a forecasting class and a first aid class on Friday. And we're also going to be handing out our Stormfront Freaks Storm Chaser emergency kits to those that are attending the first aid class. So if you're going to that, we put together some cool first aid kits for you. They've got tourniquets and gloves and CPR masks, gauze, paracord. What am I
Red Cross
missing?
water pouches, maybe.
No, those are not. Those are not in there. Brady, you kind of ruined that, I think, for everybody with that. But anyway, and then Saturday there's going to be an incredible lineup of speakers, including some of our past guests: Josh Morgerman, Jeff Piotrowski, Tim Marshall, Dr. Jason Persoff, Rick Smith, Jen Walton, Jennifer Brindley Ubel, and then our own Serena Arnold. So those are some of the speakers that are going to be there, but those are all past guests of ours. And then Sunday, there's going to be a bunch of Chasers stories and videos from Chasers and their 2022 chases. So what you got to do is just go ahead and visit chasersummit.com to register. Also, hotel accommodations are on site at the Delta Hotel. This is all in Midwest City, suburb of Oklahoma City. But here's the thing with the hotel, they're closing the group rate in a couple of weeks. So you basically need to act now if you want to get that group rate. And I even searched some of the surrounding hotels with my membership, my Hilton membership, and the rates at this hotel were still better. And they've revamped all their rooms and everything. If you were at the summit last year, they were under construction. And now they're open and rooms look sweet. So go ahead and gear up for the 2023 season with your friends. Meet some new ones, including us. We'll have a table with giveaways and other fun stuff. Again, just go ahead and visit chasersummit.com now. Do that now, okay? So it's always happy hour when we record. Doesn't matter what time that is. Doesn't matter what time you're listening. But it's a great way to introduce the co-hosts that are here tonight and let you know we like to have a little fun while we're doing the show. So I'm going to go around the horn, find out who's at the bar, and find out what they're drinking. I'll start with MJ, Mark Johnson, up in Minnesota. Hey, what are you drinking?
Cheers, everybody. Tonight I've got, I've had this before. Sapsucker Farms is a local Mora, Minnesota producer of cider. This is their barrel-aged yellow belly hard cider.
Wow.
Nice.
Fine local. Drink local.
That's right.
That's good. All right, Dina Knightley, our meteorologist and weather producer at the Weather Channel. What are you drinking?
I've got one of my Decoy black cherry seltzers. I dig it. It's good.
It's kind of your new fave.
It kind of is. Yeah. I kind of got to go back to my moonshine, though, pretty soon. We were talking about that a little earlier.
Oh, I miss that. I like my moonshine. All right, Serena Arnold, former meteorologist at Mount Washington Observatory. Serena, what are you drinking?
I've got a weather beer again tonight. This one's called First Drop. And it's an American pale ale, but from Upper Pass, but it's got a cute little raindrop on it.
Yeah, it does.
That is cute.
Serena, where do you keep finding these? I mean, it's just like, it's impressive.
I spend a lot of time in beer stores.
Yeah, I guess.
It helps when you're Mrs. New Hampshire too. I mean, come on.
Go in with your crown on. Like,
All right. On that, Maz Massaro, our former on-camera meteorologist. What are you drinking, Maz? Wearing the
I got a
wearing the
mystery
orange.
drink inside of my brand new Yeti. Thank you, Secret Santa Brady. Easy for me to say. And it's great.
Must be something good in there, the way you're talking.
I love it. I love it. It's water.
Uh-huh.
oh, you could have said anything.
I could have said anything.
Yeah.
Because we can't tell, right? All right, Brady
It's a
Harris,
mystery.
our atmospheric science graduate. What are you drinking, Brady?
I took out one of MJ's books, and I'm having some rum and Coke here.
There
I
you
don't
go.
think it's I don't think it's Kraken, which he usually has. I don't even know what this is. I think this is like black strap. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna die after, if that's what the X means.
What it
but
is empty.
Jeez.
Well,
How much of
yeah,
that did you drink?
no. I promise that this isn't just Coke. There's a little bit of something in there.
A little bit. All right, that's good. We know who's here. Maz, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce our guest.
Awesome. Thank you. We have Dr. Phil Klotzbach, who's here today, the real Dr. Phil, just saying. He's a research scientist in the Department of Atmospheric Science at Colorado State University. He was co-author on the Atlantic Basin Hurricane Forecast through 2005 and became the first author on the Seasonal Hurricane Forecast in 2006. Welcome, Dr. Phil. How are you tonight? You good?
Woo!
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So first question I have for you, before we really get into everything, how did you decide I want to be a researcher?
Well, I've always been obsessed with the weather since I was a kid. And so I've always just kind of been fascinated with like what makes the weather tick. I remember when I was like 5 or 6 years old, getting up at like 5:30 in the morning to watch AM weather on PBS. I'm not sure if any of you remember that. But yeah, and always would basically, I grew up in Massachusetts, so it was always, I grew up in Massachusetts, but in Plymouth, so right on the water. And so most of the time the nor'easters would track a little too close to the coast and it would change to rain, which was very sad. So I had my dad like print out blank maps of the US and I would try to draw synoptic weather patterns that would give us the most snow. So yeah, I've always been obsessed with the weather, and we had Hurricane Gloria go through when I was 5, and that really got me interested in hurricanes specifically and what makes them tick. And you know, I had the great privilege of working with Dr. Bill Gray for about 15 years, and he just had this insatiable curiosity, wanting to know, you know, spent his entire life studying hurricanes and wanted to know why hurricanes behave the way they do, and still trying to figure it out. There's certainly it's a challenging thing because like the weather, we get clues, we have rough ideas, but then things sometimes don't pan out the way that we expect. And so I think that's really kind of what research is, right? So I do research, but I also do forecasting. We do seasonal hurricane predictions every year at Colorado State. We also do sub-seasonal forecasts, so how busy the next, say, 2 weeks are going to be. Sometimes the forecasts turn out well, sometimes they don't. And when they don't, when you bust, that's actually when you, I think, learn the most. So I've just tried to, you know, we can get into talking about what happened this past year. And there's some things that worked out well, some things that didn't. So trying to kind of figure out why didn't things quite play out the way that we expected, and then trying to obviously take that into account so that in the future, when seasons like 2022 present themselves, we can have forecasts that are even better than what we had this past year.
Do you have a favorite favorite type?
A favorite weather condition?
Yeah, or type or storm, or I mean, is there one thing you're like, oh, that's my favorite?
Yeah, I mean, being in Colorado, it's really hard to beat mammatus clouds. Those are some of my favorites. And so, well, I worked for Colorado State since 2000. I actually worked remotely and lived in the Northern California for about 7 years, and I was very, very convectively deprived. And so we moved back. We moved back to Colorado and lived in the mountains for a few months. And when I was living in the mountains, especially in the San Juan Mountains in Southwest Colorado during peak monsoon season, it was like every day just mammatus clouds. It was. I felt like I got to kind of catch up on all the convection I missed over a few years. So yeah, I would say those are probably my favorite ones. It's also Colorado, we do occasionally get these Kelvin-Helmholtz waves, which are kind of basically instability clouds, and those are really cool, especially when you can actually see the crest of the waves actively breaking. But that often is involved with really windy weather, so not necessarily want to be out in it for too long.
That's awesome. So I've been watching, and paying attention to Bill Gray's forecasts, his seasonal hurricane forecast. He's like the guy, right? For years and years and years. And you had the privilege of working with him. You got to give me a peek behind the scenes here briefly. What was it like working with him? You said he, had this great curiosity, but, tell us more about what it was like to work for such an icon.
Yeah, I mean, he was an amazing guy to work for. I guess I worked with him for about 15 years towards the end of his career. So when I started working with him, he would have been 69 years old. Just a fascinating guy. He had an interesting kind of background. So he got his start in weather in the Air Force, forecasting for the Air Force. And then he actually had his undergraduate degree in geography, and then which is also my undergraduate degree, so go geography, and then got his master's and PhD in atmospheric science from the University of Chicago, and then came out to Colorado State. It's amazing what he did with the data that he had. Now, when we're so spoiled, we can go and you can go online and be like, hey, what was the weather on whatever day? And just, you can do all sorts of plots really, really easily. The data's all there. And back then, like he had to basically know what he was looking for ahead of time, because he would have call people up and say, hey, send me data from this one particular weather station. I think that's really what I think his legacy is he was very much an empiricist. He basically let the data kind of dictate where he was going to go. So he's kind of best known in the general public for his seasonal hurricane forecast, but I mean, he made fundamental contributions to tropical cyclone genesis, his parameters for why storms form where they do, why we don't, say, for example, get very many storms, say, in the South Atlantic Ocean, why we get them when we do, where we do. Those parameters haven't been tweaked very much since his initial paper published in 1968. He made fundamental contributions to even tropical just convection. So when we get thunderstorms, why tropical convection tends to peak during the early morning hours. And so in all these different areas, so in addition to just the seasonal forecast, just really a giant in the field, and really also just a very interesting guy to work for. He just had a really good sense of humor, just a real character. And I think the thing with Bill Gray is every single person who met Bill Gray, even if they only met him once, has a story about him. Like he would make some sort of comment that would make you leave you scratching your head and laughing. So just a real character, in addition to being a brilliant scientist. And he was kind of like my grandfather too. Gave a nice toast at my wedding and stuff like that. So just really, really blessed to have had the chance to work with him for as long as I did, and try to kind of keep his legacy alive as long as we can. There's also, so Dr. Gray had, I believe, about, 40 master's students, 20 PhD students, something like that, maybe even more. So basically anyone who's in the Bill Gray Research Project, we always try to meet up and get together whenever we get the opportunity. So it's really neat to have had the chance to work with him.
That's awesome. So talking about this hurricane season, then, you alluded a little bit to some of it. It was a little crazy. So I know the forecast came out saying, hey, this hurricane season is going to probably be above average. I feel like everything was tracking along really well. And then August hit. So you want to talk a little bit about, what went on in August and why such a big dry spell during a time where we were supposed to have, be reaching our peak for hurricanes.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I gave a talk for an AMS weather band at the end of November, and I basically said 2022, the most, the most abnormal normal season on record. So at the end of the day, the numbers look like pretty much a dead on average season, nothing to see, not that exciting. But it was extremely unusual in the way that it behaved. So we had a fairly busy in June into early July, and then nothing from, I believe, July the 3rd through the end of August. It's the first time that had happened since 1941, when Ted Williams threw 406 for my hometown Boston Red Sox. So it had been a long, long time to go that long with no storms. And our group at Colorado State, NOAA, all these other groups do seasonal forecasts are saying busy, busy season. We had no storms in August and a really busy September, and then a really quiet October, followed by a really busy November. So at the end of the day, it ended up average. But August was, I think that was the biggest surprise, in that end of September, at least the stuff I was looking at, we could say, okay, October was likely to be fairly quiet. But August, even in early August, we didn't expect it. And even the dynamical models, so the numerical models like the European Center model, the global forecast system from the US, we're all pretty robust at forecasting a busy second half of August. You had La Nina, which is colder than normal water in the eastern and central tropical Pacific. Normally when that occurs, that reduces levels of vertical wind shear. So while vertical wind shear in general is what you want if you want severe weather, vertical wind shear is bad for the hurricanes. It basically suppresses hurricane development by tilting the hurricane vortex. So basically in the Atlantic, your low level winds typically blow out of the east. At upper levels, high up in the atmosphere, they blow out of the west. And that tends to tear apart hurricanes climatologically, which is why the Atlantic normally doesn't have as many storms as the western North Pacific. In a La Nina, that tends to reduce your shear. But in August, the shear was still fairly elevated. And a lot of that wasn't necessarily coming from tropical forcing. It was coming more from mid-latitude forcing. We had what's known as wave breaking. So basically we had a lot more frontal intrusions into the tropics. And when you have fronts moving into the tropics from the middle latitudes, low pressure areas, that tends to bring in drier air, since the mid latitudes tend to be drier than the tropics, but also a lot of vertical wind shear, especially in the central and western Atlantic. And that really knocked down storm activity, even though we had La Nina, and we also had subseasonal tropical variability that was also would normally favor a busy time. So August shear was fairly elevated. September shear was quite low, and we had a very busy month, most notable producing hurricanes Fiona and Ian. And then October actually had extremely high shear, some of the highest shear in October actually on record, even in a La Nina event, and that was likely driven a lot more by subseasonal variability that was very harsh for that month. And then basically all that kind of broke down in early November. We got one last flurry. I thought we had a shot in early December, a season hurricane, but didn't quite get it.
Because Phil, we use your Colorado State stuff a lot at weather.com. Is it the first one comes out in August, right? Like how early do you start really hunkering down to get that forecast started?
Oh, well, I mean, so our first formal forecast comes out in April.
April.
But I look at stuff now. I mean, always looking at stuff.
all year long.
How early is too early, Phil?
No, we don't put out a forecast now, but we're certainly already looking at stuff.
Yeah.
One of the big things that we're monitoring this time of year is what's going on with El Nino. We've been in this really long, prolonged La Nina. So this colder than normal water in the eastern and central tropical Pacific has tended to persist since early March, April time of 2020. So we've had kind of this long, prolonged La Nina event, and there are indications that it may be weakening, but at least in the short term, the winds across the tropical Pacific look to be such that I would expect the La Nina to persist for at least the next maybe month, 2 months. But normally, if you're going to get a change, it occurs during the spring, so March, April, May. And a lot of the models are aggressive at calling for a change, potentially even to El Nino. However, it is important to realize that these models have been aggressive at calling for El Nino for quite a while, and we still haven't seen one.
And I think this is the third La Nina in a row.
Correct. Yeah, we've had 3 years of La Nina in a row. We have not had a 4-year La Nina event. I think that would be really, really unlikely, but we could potentially have neutral conditions, which means neither La Nina nor El Nino. And then pretty much all bets are off. You can have a really quiet season. You can have an extremely busy season. Some of the busiest seasons we ever had have been in neutral years, but we've also had really quiet seasons in neutral years. So then it becomes a lot more what's going on in the Atlantic. That really kind of dictates then how busy the 2023 season would be. But certainly already now we're kind of monitoring conditions, but we also every year we effectively tweak a lot of the models that we use, taking into account what we learned from prior years. So we'll certainly be doing some work for the 2023 season. We'll likely be working on trying to especially anticipate what happened in August. We actually had a PhD student in our research group, the research group that I work in, that got her PhD effectively looking at predictions of this and the drivers of it. And there wasn't a ton there on August through October, but I think if we maybe focus on August specifically, because that tends to be when that wave breaking during the peak months of the season tends to be at its strongest. So we'll be looking at that over the next couple of months to try to better be able to anticipate that for future years.
So Phil, I was just going to say, Brady, didn't you ask Brady how early is too early to forecast? So what is your forecast for 2023, Phil?
Oh, I'm sorry. How early is too early to forecast? Yeah,
Yes.
so let's see. At this lead time, I'd say 4 to 30 storms. 2 to 16 hurricanes. No. I mean, right now. I mean, I would say right now. It's really hard to say just because we really don't have a clue what's going to happen with El Nino at this point. You kind of want to see how things play out, even by April. So April, the forecast still is moderate. There is some forecast skill there, but it's not great because El Nino, unfortunately, decides normally to change during the spring, which is when we're trying to do these forecasts. So if you're forecasting Southern Hemisphere, from that perspective, forecasting Southern Hemisphere cyclones is a lot easier than in the Northern Hemisphere. You tend to get these transitions during the spring. So we'll certainly be monitoring those conditions, but I also kind of want to see what plays out in the Atlantic, how those sea surface temperatures trend over the next couple of months. So certainly we'll have a lot more to say with that.
Phil, what goes into forecasts? Like, so you talked about like La Nina, El Nino. What are some other factors that you're looking for? Maybe not now because it's a little too early, but like, you get into March, April, May. You're looking at some of these factors. What are you looking at outside of kind of El Nino and La Nina?
Yeah, so a lot of the factors, and it's interesting too, if you look at where the predictors that we use are located, if you look, say, in March, April timeframe, those predictors may be fairly far afield from the Atlantic Ocean. And that's because we're looking more at basically what are known as teleconnections. So if you have wind, pressure, sea surface temperature changes in one area, say during the spring, that will then alter the atmospheric circulation in such a way that by the time you get to the summer, it will then, say, change the water temperatures in the Atlantic. So if you look at our predictors in April, they tend to be fairly far, spread a little farther out than what you look at, say, when we're doing our forecast in early August. So a lot of our efforts, even in March, April, is trying to get an idea of what the El Nino is going to do. So we have a statistical model that looks at sea surface temperatures in the tropical Pacific Ocean. So what they are currently, also what the pressure and wind patterns look like in the Pacific Ocean to tend to kind of force what might be happening with El Nino over the next few months. In the Atlantic, we also look at upper level wind patterns over Africa that even in that early lead time can kind of give us an idea as to potentially what the upper level winds might be during the summer. And then we focus a lot on water temperatures, not in the deep tropics, but in the subtropical Atlantic, because when those waters, say, are warmer than normal, in the subtropical Atlantic, so say off the west coast of Africa, those waters are warmer than normal, that tends to force lower pressures. And if you have lower pressures, that tends to force weaker winds on the southern periphery of that lower pressure. And that weaker winds lead to less mixing, churning up of the ocean surface, which leads to basically the oceans obviously warming up every year from spring to summer, but anomalously warming, so warming up faster than normal.
Yeah, I mean that's super interesting, right? Because you have all these different factors at play, and they're La Nina, El Nino, those translate to certain things the hurricane season, but even off of the coast of Africa with the waters, I mean, I didn't even think about that, right? But that makes total sense because that's where they form. That's where those systems tend to form. Is there any around the Gulf, any factors you're looking at? Are you waiting till August or September to look, I get maybe even July to look at sea surface temperatures around there, because obviously you can't predict those in April or May, or can you?
Yeah, so I mean, the Gulf of Mexico is interesting because it actually is a fairly low predictability region. So trying to be able to predict, say, storm activity in the Gulf. And some of that is because our prediction skill generally come from the deep tropics. And storms that form in the deep tropics typically form off the coast of Africa. They may form in the Caribbean. Storms in the Gulf, they can form in the Gulf in situ. And if they form in the Gulf, they may form from frontal systems, things like that, especially early and late season. Those don't necessarily correlate as much with the kind of predictors that we normally use for a seasonal forecast. Whereas if you look, say, at storms forming in the Caribbean, tropical Atlantic, most of those do form from basically waves or disturbances coming off of Africa. And that's where we have our highest levels of predictability. I would say if I had to pick one predictor, the best predictor that we have prior to the peak of the season is we look at the strength of the low level winds. So the winds just above the ocean surface, the trade winds in the Caribbean during July. When those are weaker than normal, that tends to mean a very, very busy season is coming up. And that's due to the fact that to get those weaker winds, you need to have high pressure in the Eastern Pacific, which typically means you have a La Nina. It also means you have lower pressures in the Atlantic, which means a more unstable atmosphere, basically just a harbinger of a very busy season. Also, if you have weaker winds at low levels, that tends to reduce those levels of vertical wind shear, which is, again, critical for forming storms. Also, when you have those weaker winds, again, you have the less mixing up of the ocean surface, allowing for the waters to warm up. And obviously, warmer waters providing more fuel for hurricanes to develop and intensify.
Do you have, I mean, obviously we get the spaghetti models that come out whenever there's a hurricane and everybody's talking about spaghetti. Is there one model that you're like, yeah, that's really kind of my model I look for? And are there any new improvements or new models coming out in that area? Are you just seeing anything, or, oh, we've reached the peak, we've done the best we can?
Yeah. And so, I look at everything under the kitchen sink when it comes to models. Since my focus is more, I obviously look at what's going on with individual storms and what's going to happen the next day. More of my focus on what's going to happen later. So what's going to happen the next week or two. So even say, for example, when there's, say, a storm like Hurricane Ian that's bearing down on Florida, I'm providing content on that storm, but I'm also looking at what might be coming on down the pike. And so I use basically a variety of ensembles. So there's tools both from the U.S. ensemble, so from the Global Forecast System, they have the GEFS ensemble, which has a bunch of basically what you do is you take your observations at a particular time, and then you basically tweak them to kind of basically estimate the uncertainty in those observations, and you run those forward in time. And so those very small perturbations at the start, basically those errors grow with time. So it kind of gives you a good idea of kind of the spread. So I'll look at the forecast of actual where tropical cyclones may develop, also kind of what the large scale is going to be. So looking at that, as well as the ones from the European Center. One thing that is cool is the European Center is going to start at some point early this year, I think they said maybe even the next few weeks, putting out their 46-day forecast every day. So that would be really, really nice to have that data available. Honestly, one of the things I kind of want to see is how stable are those forecasts going down the pike. Obviously, if you're looking at tropical cyclone genesis, once you get beyond week 1, especially once you get beyond week 2, there's not a lot of skill there. So what I look at more than where the models say storms are forming is more like what the environment's going to look like. Because basically, if the environment is more conducive or less conducive, you're likely to see more or fewer storms. But some of these ensembles, they can give you good information, but the ensembles were very bullish going into late August, and we still had nothing for a couple of weeks, and then pretty much everything really broke down in September. So, or got really busy in September. So I look at everything, and just because one model does well with one storm or does well 1 year doesn't guarantee that model is going to do better the following year. Yeah. Because when you're looking at these global models, they're basically built kind of their target skill metric is like the 500 millibar geopotential height anomaly, and so. That's basically, if they can improve that globally, then that's when they put out a lot of these model upgrades. So when that's kind of your baseline skill metric, that may or may not improve the hurricane forecasts. So certainly some years models may do great with mid-latitude weather, but not necessarily predict the tropics as well. And some models will just struggle with a particular storm. They won't do well with the storm for whatever reason, depending on, and so. Yeah, I look at everything under the everything but the kitchen sink with all these with basically with seasonal forecasting, sub-seasonal forecasting, and with day-to-day forecasting of hurricanes. I spend way too much time looking at models, which is one reason why normally if your wife asks you what you're doing in the middle of the night and you say you're looking at models, normally she's going to smack you. Right. I'm going to work. It's okay.
Weather models. Phil,
exactly. She knows the kind of models I'm talking about.
Yeah, she knows. But you did say one thing that caught my attention. You were saying you were looking at pressures off Africa really early in the season when we usually don't get a lot of stuff forming off Africa till later in the season. So that just caught my attention. And, why are you looking at that so intensely?
Yeah, so we're actually not even looking at, say, like right off the coast of Africa where the storms come off. We're looking even higher. We're looking higher latitudes. So say like 25 to 35, 40 degrees north. And it's basically what happens is if you have basically a weaker subtropical high pressure system, so a weaker Azores high, what that does during the spring is when you have that weaker high pressure, basically that reduces your pressure gradient. So you get weaker low level winds blowing across the tropical Atlantic. And that means effectively allows for the tropical Atlantic to warm up faster during the spring into the summer, and that leads to basically just more fuel for storms when we get to the peak season. So during the spring into the early summer, I look a lot at pressures in more of the subtropics, and then for the peak of the season, then I start looking more at pressures in the peak of or in basically what's known as the main development region, so where the storms typically form, which is right off the coast of Africa. Bill Gray used to always say, if you could pick one place to put a grad student, you pick Dakar, Senegal. That's kind of the money spot. If the waves come off around the latitude of Dakar, that's usually where you kind of have the best chance of intensifying. If they come off too much farther north, they tend to recurve, and also the waters up there. If you look at the gradient on sea surface temperatures, as you go farther north, right off the coast of Africa, it gets cold in a hurry. So the systems tend to just die off really quickly.
I'll tell you what, we're getting into some really geeky
I know. I was almost scared to ask about the low,
it.
but I was like, I gotta know.
No, this is good. This is good. I don't know if you've heard, but Phil, are you going to the AMS conference in Denver next week?
Yes, I will be there next week.
Cool. So the shout out there. But if you haven't heard, the AMS is shouting out to all the weather enthusiasts because they now have an organization called the AMS Weather Band. It's basically a part of the AMS. These members have been at the forefront of weather, water, and climate research for 100 years. So you talk about geeky, fun weather stuff, right? You'll go behind the scenes with the 10,000 plus scientists, broadcasters, educators, and researchers of the AMS, like Dr. Klotzbach. The Weather Band brings together weather professionals and weather enthusiasts. So band members, you can grow your knowledge and appreciation of weather and climate by participating in virtual events online, discussions, Q&As, webinars, photo contests, and more. And actually, one of our Patreon members, Jeremy Bauer, just recently, I think, took second in one of their photo contests. But the AMS Weather Band, it gives you the opportunity to interact directly with those in the scientific community. So if you want to learn more, and I think you should, check out the band and join today. Just go to amsweatherband.org. So, hey, it's time for our break. Grab a drink, and we're going to be right back with Dr. Klotzbach. Cool. All right. I'm going to quick do this. I'm going to quick try and test my audio here one more time. You guys, I don't know if the VIPs had a chance to ask Phil any questions, but
no, so go ahead.
I was going to say, I talked to the AMS Weather Band at the end of the hurricane season. It was a really good discussion.
Yeah, actually, Jeremy Bauer mentioned he said that was one of the best ones he's heard. So, big
I'm glad
kudos.
The hour went by quickly. I still don't have all the answers.
No, this is cool. It's been like a master class, man. This is cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for real.
Pretty sure our Patreon members are afraid to ask. I'm like,
but hey, Garrett, and
my favorite questions are the ones that start "No offense," but I like those ones. Those are good.
no offense, but do you know Richie Cunningham?
Richie Cunningham? No.
From Happy
Can
Days.
you tell us
from Happy Days, the last no.
Did you just
Okay.
date yourself, Maz?
I was gonna say I recognize the name, but I didn't realize which Richie Cunningham you were referring to. I don't know Richie Cunningham. I don't know Randall Cunningham, unfortunately.
Oh.
All right, I'm done.
Garrett, any questions?
I was trying to think of one. I think the best one I could think of was, I know you mentioned, planning for El Nino, La Nina seasons, and that, that kind of neutral zone. Things have kind of changed a lot now. I mean, we're just a few days into January and already getting tornadoes. So does that kind of change your all's outlook on, like, even if it is like a neutral kind of season, how much more elevated that could be now compared to seasons past?
Yeah, I mean, right now when I'm kind of looking at stuff, like there's the models are pretty aggressive at calling for a pretty quick switch over to neutral, potentially even El Nino. But if we look at the winds across the tropical Pacific right now and what they're forecast to be, we've had very, very strong low-level trade winds blowing across the tropical Pacific, and it's been that way for a long time, for several years. And basically, to get an El Nino, what you really need is you need to basically kind of flip those strong trade winds. Basically, they need to die down, what they call these westerly wind bursts. So we'll get these either really weak easterlies or even actual westerly winds blowing across the tropical Pacific, because climatologically, right off the coast of Indonesia, it's stinking hot. I was in Bali for this international workshop on tropical cyclones last month. I can attest those waters are warm. And so when you get those westerly winds, that basically takes that warm water from the western Pacific to the eastern Pacific. And that's basically when you get your El Nino events. And those westerly wind events can be caused by some subseasonal variability. We talk about this Madden-Julian oscillation, which kind of changes where thunderstorms form across the equator, near the equator. It also can actually form if you happen to get tropical cyclones near the equator on both sides of the, especially if you get them on both sides of the equator. That can really cause a lot of anomalous flow out of the west that can really kick off an El Nino event. We saw that in big time in 1997 when we had one of the biggest El Ninos on record. One thing I think is interesting.
A hurricane, you're saying? Like a
yes.
hurricane near like the ITCZ.
Yeah, if you get, especially if you get them on both sides of the equator, you think about that cyclonic circulation in both hemispheres. That's basically anomalous westerly flow at low latitudes. And we actually, I also think too, Hurricane Ioki, which was a long-lived tropical cyclone, I believe in 2002, that brought a lot of westerly wind forcing from that cyclone, because it basically went from the eastern North Pacific all the way across the international date line, just bringing westerlies as it went, because it was at very, very low latitude. So that can also tend to kick off these El Nino events. But if you look at the current winds and what's forecast, given the current tropical circulation and what's coming, I expect fairly strong trade winds coming up. So I don't think we're going to see a big flip, at least in the next few weeks. Once you get past January, kind of all bets are off. But at least right now, it looks like we're going to be pretty strong into strong trade winds over the Pacific Ocean. I have to say, the tropical forcing coming up, if it weren't January or February, if this were September, we'd be getting pretty bullish on a busy period for Atlantic hurricanes. But reducing shear from its climatology in January still doesn't give you storms, because climatological shear this time of year is a way too strong for anything.
So Dan, if you have any room left for any more information about this topic, do you have a question?
No offense,
because I feel full. My brain is full. So,
well, so I understand, the models seem to be lacking in some places. Do you see where that might be improved?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of so when it comes to seasonal predictions, so looking at the models on the seasonal time scale, what we've done recently, which Bill Gray couldn't have done in the 80s because these climate models that we used were in their infancy or didn't exist, is in addition to doing kind of statistical forecasts where we say, okay, say it's August 1st. We know what happened in July. Historically, when those conditions that we just observed happen in July, we have a busy season, we have a quiet season, and we have these kind of statistical models. But what we can also use is climate models to forecast what's going to happen in the future. And so if you look at a climate model, and say they're not going to do well, like what's the weather going to be on August 16th on July 1st, say. But when you start looking at monthly averages, they actually do show skill. So what we also will use is these climate models to forecast, what are the winds going to look like? What are the pressures going to look like? What are the sea surface temperatures going to look like during the peak months of the season? So instead of trying to use the models to forecast the actual number of storms, if they can tell me what the large scale environment is, the storms typically will follow, kind of like build it, and they will come. And so those models in general show reasonably good skill, but I use the European Center model, the UK Met Office model, and the Japan Meteorological Agency, or JMA model, but they also still have some issues this year. They were generally more aggressive at a busy season than what we observed. So it was one of those cases where, it wasn't, given how busy we had in September and the end of the season, it didn't end up being like a massive bust like we thought maybe the end of August, where it could be one of the biggest busts we had ever had. It ended up being, an over forecast, but marginal busting, if anything. But it certainly didn't play out the way I thought it would, or I think pretty much anybody thought it would. I think it took a lot of people by surprise, just how it went from busy late June, early July to completely in the toilet to really
to catastrophic. Yeah,
a big surge at the end of the season was not, I think, what people were expecting. Certainly wouldn't have been the way I would have said the season was going to play out. And I think kind of what this highlights is the tropical forcing is important, but also some of this mid-latitude forcing. And I think that's where both statistically we have a hard time with, because predicting mid-latitude weather is hard more than a few days out. And also I think the climate models in general kind of struggle with it too. And we saw that with the forecast issued in the middle of August. If you look at some of the ensembles, they were really aggressive at storms the last 2 weeks in August, and we still had nothing, which I think is one of the reasons why the season ended up being, a decent bit less active than we thought. Had late August played out the way the model said, and we had a couple of hurricanes, a long-lived major hurricane, the overall numbers would have been probably pretty close. Although it's interesting because Bill Gray used to always say, if you're going to get one number right, it's the number of hurricanes. And oddly enough, the number of hurricanes came out just about perfect, which is odd given the way the rest of the numbers played out were lower than what we expected. We didn't get any really long track storms coming all the way off of Africa. Stuff tended to form a little bit farther west, which isn't great because if stuff forms farther west, so if stuff forms right off Africa, normally it has a higher chance of recurving, so going out to sea. Irma notwithstanding, that's as Bill Gray would say, it's the exception that proves the rule. But if you get stuff forming at say 50, 60 west, near the Lesser or Greater Antilles, those storms generally are really problematic because they got to hit something. So I call those kind of like your angst storms. And obviously the poster child for that was 2020, where we had tons of storms. If you look at some of these integrated numbers, they weren't through the roof, but everything formed right near land. And obviously we had huge impacts in the US and the Caribbean, Central America. Just everybody kind of was hammered by those storms. Not a lot of curves.
So Angela, you're up.
I don't have a question for the
Okay.
moment.
Okay. Like
Cool.
me.
Well, it was good timing for me, huh?
Yeah, it was good
Yeah,
timing for you.
it was.
I missed
said
it all,
I-
unfortunately.
I said I asked to be excused because my brain's full. So.
All right. So my guess is because of my time away, we've probably exhausted a lot of the questions for Phil,
did.
but I do have at least one that I'll start with. Anybody else definitely want to make sure they follow up on anything?
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna see what kind
That's
of
fine.
storm chasing questions.
Okay.
So Phil, do you spend any time chasing? Do you ever go out for a drive head out east a little bit, or when's the last
We
time you
want to
storm
save
chased?
that for the actual time.
Well, I know that's why
Yeah,
I don't want him
don't
to be
answer
like
yet.
never.
Honestly,
I got you.
from a storm chasing perspective, I really don't chase storms, and that's because I really, really don't like driving. I'm like the world's antsiest person, so sitting here for an hour I need to get up and move here soon. So
Okay.
I'm an extremely antsy person. If I'm not working, I'm usually out in the mountains.
So that said, we will get to. I've got at least one question, and if none else, we will go to our game show, and we'll play our game show, and then we will be done. Is that
I just want
good?
to hear Phil keep talking about the tropics, man. I'm like,
All right.
I'm loving it.
But I will point out, I have to say, have you heard that they are going to be doing a sequel to Twister?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That'll
I
be
have to
fun.
say, Twister
I
is
hope.
still one of. So there's basically, my wife knows there's two movies that if it's on and when I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, that it just stops.
You
One of
gotta
those
watch.
is Happy Gilmore, which is just ridiculous.
Oh, I'm with you there, Phil.
Those
Phil,
are
I
the
am
two
there.
movies.
There you go.
I am right
Phil
there.
just
with
went
you
from
with Happy
here
Gilmore.
to here in my book. I'm just saying,
Oh
like,
God.
Get in your hole.
But I think Twister's not, given Bill Paxton unfortunately has passed away, and Philip Seymour Hoffman has passed away, and Van Halen, unfortunately, we won't be able to get probably epic tracks from Van Halen. It's probably not going to measure up to the original. But I have to say, we haven't really had very many even remotely decent weather movies since Twister. That's been a pretty pathetic
Just throw some
lineup.
sharks in there. Throw some.
Yeah, the
sharks in there,
Sharknado
too.
movies
That'll be
were
good.
entertaining, but most
Maybe
of the
no
other ones,
piranhas
like,
in there.
oh
The
man,
first
and so
one, and then it got old
Throw
kind
some
of
sea
fast.
creatures into a tornado. That's all we need.
one divergence. So do you remember The Day After Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we managed to convince Dr. Gray to go see that movie by basically, we basically told another professor that Gray was going. We told Gray that this other professor was going, so we got everybody to go. And so it was really funny because there's a line in there like, we brought down air from the mesosphere so quickly, it didn't have time to warm. And Bill Gray just starts groaning. It was so funny. It was
I was thinking of that exact line
awesome.
too.
Those are some low
when
lows.
You said it.
They're
Yeah,
fucking
All right.
amazing.
I don't think they spent much time trying to get any sort of meteorological
No.
especially, I think the most impressive thing was what Dennis Quaid made it from like Philadelphia to New York in one night on foot. That was impressive.
That was pretty good.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Sorry,
Do
we're
it,
gonna
do
get
it.
going so you can get up and walk around a little bit, Phil. All right, we are coming back in 3, 2. Hey, welcome back to the show. So we're here with Dr. Klotzbach, and we've asked you a lot of questions already, Phil. And I just the one thing I want to know is really this: is you've been doing this for a little bit now. I kind of want to know what are some of the biggest things you've learned about your forecasting and about, like, hey, this is what I thought, but this is what happened, and wow, that's showing a pattern. Give me an idea of what are some of the biggest things you've learned.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we've learned is really with statistical modeling and stuff is that you want to not have too many predictors. So I think if you look historically at some of the forecasts that came out of CSU, right when I started, even before I was there, they had too many predictors. And so I think trying to kind of come up with simpler, cleaner models. But one of the things I think has been really neat that we've learned is that, it was one of the things Dr. Gray was like, he was really impressed when you actually started seeing this, is that these climate models now have skill at being able to forecast kind of large scale weather conditions months into the future. And the nice thing is they have like 20 or 30 years of basically what they call hindcast. So basically how well those models would have worked in past years to be able to do that. And I think that's just something that's really revolutionary that we haven't had in the past. So I think that's really something that's been really cool to adopt. I've certainly had, kicking around this business for 23 years now, like forecasting the weather is a great way. Forecasting weather and climate is a great way to keep yourself humble. Kind of like when you have a cat, and like you go away for 2 weeks and your cat looks up at you and, goes right back to cleaning its butt or whatever it was doing before. Like,
Phil, I know what you're saying.
Forecasting the
I know what
weather.
you're saying. Yeah, big cat guy.
But anyway, cats keep you humble, right? Because they don't really necessarily particularly care if you're there or gone for 2 weeks. But forecasting the weather is good at keeping you humble. Certainly our biggest bust that I was a part of was 2013. And that really did, I think, emphasize the impacts of the middle latitudes and how those can really significantly gum up the works, so to speak, for what quote unquote should have been a busier hurricane season. So we really have tried to work on that. And I think, we still underestimated its influence in 2022, but I think we were better than we would have been had we not had the 2013 bust. But yeah, I think all in all, these seasonal forecasts, it's a really fascinating exercise every year to really try to better understand what makes, again, kind of going back to what I said at the start, what kind of makes the atmosphere and ocean tick. And yeah, forecasting the weather, and certainly when you're out in the mountains trying to forecast mountain weather, will really, really keep you humble too.
Well, that's the sound. It is time, Phil, for our lightning round. So this is our game show of flashy and brilliant questions that we always get to play with our guests. And tonight Brady, you're going to like this one too. Not only will Dr. Klotzbach like this, but we're bringing back a variation of a tropical favorite. The tropical favorite is a game we play called Hurricane or Supermodel.
Yes.
Where we give you a name and you have to tell me, was this a name of a certain hurricane or is it the name of a famous supermodel? So the one we're going to play tonight, because we just got done with the World Cup. I don't know if Phil, if you're a soccer fan or not, or football fan, however you want to say that is fine by me. But so the game we're going to play tonight is Hurricane or World Cup player.
Ooh.
Probably safer than models with his wife in the other room.
Yeah,
right?
well, that could be. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a name, and you have to tell me, is this the name of one of the Argentinian players that won the World Cup, or is this the name of a retired hurricane?
Got it. Okay.
Right. So I'm thinking you should rock this.
I'll give it a go.
One I'm thinking, but
This could go really well or be very embarrassing, Phil. No pressure.
No pressure.
So here we go. So the first name, and you just got to tell me, is it a hurricane, meaning it's a retired hurricane, or is it a World Cup player? All right. The first name is Julian.
Julian has not been retired, so it must be an Argentinian player.
That is correct. Julian Alvarez is a forward for the team. All right, the next one. Forgive me because I'm going to just mess these names up big time. Emi.
How is that spelled?
EMI.
Oh, that's got to be an Argentinian player.
That's correct. Emi Martinez, goalkeeper. All right, next one, Dorian.
Oh, Dorian's a hurricane.
Bingo, 2019, retired.
I could swear the striker was Dorian, right?
Could be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are there any ones that are both?
There wasn't. No, there was no Dorian on the team. All right, Felix.
Felix was retired.
Yeah, extra bonus points if you remember the year.
2007.
You got it.
Oh my God, he's on it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
good. All right, so the next one can be pronounced Angel,
Argentinian player.
Yeah, his last name is Di Maria. I can't pronounce his first name correctly, but
Oh, okay.
he's a midfielder. All right, next one, Caesar, soccer player or Hurricane?
That would be a soccer player.
Oh.
1996.
That came over from the Eastern North Pacific, I believe.
Oh, was that Pacific?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, what are we doing?
Wins on a
That's all right.
Hang on,
technicality.
I gotta take it. Well, I won't look at it because I don't see the other retired names. But
Okay, we got to get him on Jeopardy. He's got to get on Jeopardy.
That's
I'm
true.
just saying.
All right, so that could be. So that could be.
Whoa.
Maybe they combined both Pacific and Atlantic on the.
Caesar may have gotten retired for stuff it did in the Central America. I'd have to go back and look.
All right, that's. I'm gonna give it to you anyway. You got it.
No!
All right.
Don't give it to me.
Okay, well, someone look it up. Who's look it up on your computer? Look up
Oh my God! All right, I'll
retired
look, see if I
Hurricane
can find
names.
it.
I
I'll see
thought we
if I
weren't
can-
allowed to do that. That's
See if
cheating.
19.
What's the
Well, it's for
computer?
you guys. It's okay. Phil's playing the game. All right. While they're looking that up, Phil, we're looking at Nicholas.
Nicholas
Soccer-
has not been retired yet.
Yep, soccer player Nicholas Tagliafico. I don't know, defenseman, I guess. All right, Frederick, soccer player, Hurricane.
Oh, Frederick's a hurricane.
Frederick, Hurricane.
1979.
79.
This
You got
is
the
awesome.
bonus. Very good. A couple more. Joaquin.
Joaquin was retired 2015.
I remember that one.
Bingo. All right, last
No, the
one.
funky one was
Lionel.
Oklahoma. From the
Lionel.
Northeast. Which one?
Lionel.
Lionel,
that's gotta be a
Phil?
soccer player.
Lionel.
Phil, hold on. Lionel?
Lionel.
Is his last name Messi?
No. Maybe.
That's Lionel.
It's not Richie. It's not
Lionel?
Richie.
What?
How? Hey, it's
Lionel
American.
Richie.
It's you're
Oh my God.
pronouncing it the American way, Brady. But anyway, all right. Hurricane or soccer player?
Soccer player.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you for not asking me the names of the soccer players. So. If you want me to get the names of players, it better be the Boston Red Sox. I can give you their roster.
Phil, can you come to my next weather trivia night? Like, I
Yeah.
think if you're on my team, I usually finish
Oh
last.
man,
So
I'm telling you, so there's a guy in our department, Russ Schumacher, who won the Tournament of Champions on Jeopardy. He's got some pretty epic knowledge of all sorts of random stuff. Like I think he ran like the opera category. I was like, dude, I don't know. I saw one opera, and that was enough for me.
All right, so
So
I've got
Gray
an update on
dragged me to the Marriage of Figaro, and I was like, all right, that's it. Check
I
it
have
out.
an update on Caesar here, though. So the name Caesar was retired the spring of 1997, will not be used again in the Atlantic Basin. It was replaced with Cristobal in the 2002 season.
All right, so that came across, yeah, because that's when I think that became Douglas in the Eastern North Pacific after.
It is, yep. Hurricane Caesar
Okay.
Douglas. Yep.
wow.
Well, you won
in my
book.
I learned something new.
That was a big winner.
was
So
incredible.
anyway, great job, Phil. You were awesome at that. So tell our listeners how they can follow you and find your stuff and really find your forecasts when those come out.
Yeah, so so basically, if you want to find stuff on me, I'm really easily Googleable because as best I know, I'm the only Phil Klotzbach in the world. There's not a lot of Klotzbachs even in Germany, so there's not many of us. So if you ever
What
meet a
does it
Klotzbach,
mean? Does
What
Klotzbach
is that?
mean anything?
it means like stumbling brook. But
That's all.
there's
Nice.
a Klotzbachstrasse near Stuttgart, but that's the only thing even in Germany. Even with all the Bachs and you go in like Germany and Switzerland, there's no Klotzbachs. There's all sorts of other Bachs, but no Klotzbachs.
You're an endangered species.
We are, yeah. So unless you live in Western New York, there's a lot of us there, and that's about it. Other than that, no, not many Klotzbachs.
Wow.
So to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Phil Klotzbach. I chose my Twitter handle long before I knew I was going to do a ton of stuff on Twitter. So I signed up for Twitter to complain to United Airlines like 10 years ago. So apologies for the Twitter handle, but that's what I got. To find all our seasonal forecast stuff, it's on tropical.colostate.edu. So tropical.colostate.edu is where you can find seasonal forecast, sub-seasonal forecast. So my Twitter feed is mostly hurricane stuff, and then outdoor pictures, which most of them are taken by my wife, who's a way better weather photographer than I am. But usually mountains and stuff like that. I do nothing political, nothing on that stuff. So we leave that for everyone else to rant and rave about. But mostly it's just and it's almost all hurricane stuff. That's kind of my jam. So
very good.
Phil,
Well, I'll tell you what.
Phil, I got to thank him because he's the only guest who's made me feel like Homer Simpson in all these episodes. Like, hey,
That's
so
good.
thank you.
That's good.
I would say that is a pretty good episode of The Simpsons when they go into what was it? They go into like, we haven't had a record. It was a hurricane hitting Springfield, right? And we're like, we haven't had a record of a hurricane hitting Springfield since like the Hall of Records got mysteriously destroyed by a windstorm like 20 years earlier or something.
All right, next time you're on, our lightning round's going to be Simpson trivia. So that's
yes. Well, as long as it's the first like 12, 13 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't. I don't got it anymore. But
I might not be able to find enough material out of 13 seasons. So we'll see. But
now I feel like Fred Flintstone. So I'm just saying, he just keeps making me feel dumber.
All right, man, shut up. We're gonna go ahead and take our last break, and we'll be right back with Potty Mouth Forecast. That's gonna have you rolling on the floor. So we'll be right back.
This has been very entertaining.
Wow.
This has been awesome.
Oh my gosh.
And very
all
humbling.
right, Phil, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks so much. Take care. Well, I guess none of you come into AMS, I guess, so I won't see any of you there. But enjoy the Storm Chasers one. That sounds like a blast. I'm glad to hear you guys about Josh Morgerman and Tim Marshall are both wildly entertaining and loads and loads of fun. Did you ask Josh about his like day job?
I don't remember. We've had him on a couple times. I don't know if that's come up.
He's a political consultant. It's actually really interesting. So if you actually want to not
Really?
you probably want to talk politics, but that's what he does for like his real. That's how he actually makes a lot of his money. He's actually like doing political consulting. So it's actually really interesting.
And now half of the Storms hate him. I don't understand why.
Why is that?
Yeah, but I think his undergraduate degree is from Harvard, and I think it's in like English or something. He's got a really interesting background, but wildly enthusiastic. And Tim Marshall's just he's
Phil. So are you. You know, you're so
I jump up and
We
down.
need to
talk
give you a
about
little
everything.
treadmill under your desk. So you can kind of
I'm a very, very antsy person. So.
I love it.
It's awesome.
All right. Thank you so much, Phil.
Thanks,
really
Phil.
appreciate your time.
Sounds good. Take care. See you.
Have a
Good luck.
night.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
My face hurts from laughing and smiling.
Man, I missed a ton of that. All of a sudden, like everybody goes out and the live is still going. So I'm like, did we all lose connection?
Oh,
What?
poor Dina.
I know.
Oh, when we lost you?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we all went out because the live clock was still up ticking and
Oh wow.
like everybody went out. I was like, oh shit.
Look, everyone do this. This is pity in sign language.
Eh.
I'm just so confused.
Never mind.
And then I'm talking to him about his
It's pity.
His,
It's the sign language.
his
Yeah, Brady,
forecast.
this is special. This is special.
Oh, geez.
Jeremy, I'm not going to be announcing any Argentinian football soccer games anytime
I
soon.
saw that.
No, but if Josh does a Simpson trivia, I'm on his team because he and I kill it. Just
If he
saying.
does any trivia.
Yeah.
If he does any trivia.
It was the 432nd episode
All right,
of The Simpsons.
MJ, when I did some sounds on my phone to the mic, was that okay, or did it sound pretty?
Some of them
Oh,
were okay,
great.
some of them not.
Okay.
The buzzer and bells were fine. The lightning round was a little weak.
All right.
But it was.
So I'm not gonna do.
Depends on
I'm
what
not
you're
gonna
doing.
do it for this second break, and we'll just edit the sounds in. But I do have to play it for
I
our
will
potty
edit the
mouth
sounds in.
because there's no other way to.
right.
Which one do you play for the potty mouth? I forget.
What's that?
Which you play music for that one?
Yeah.
No, that's the.
Highway to Hell.
And that's not terrible if you get it right up close like that.
Yeah.
Dude, that was good.
I don't know.
So as soon as you play
It's
that, I
alright.
can start saying potty mouth forecast, right?
It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So should I try it? Play it?
Yeah, do that.
Okay. All right. So I'll just make sure where I hold it, and I won't try and combine a bunch of them. That was probably a little bit of the problem, but okay. So we're gonna start with. Oh shit! I forgot to have him do his sound.
Yeah, I was gonna
guess.
say we didn't get a sound plate from.
Oh, that's.
I was trying to get everybody. I was like, shut up! Like, let's let him get out of here. And then
I felt like that was directed at me for
Did he
some
say
reason.
he had to
I
get
think
up?
I did say
tomorrow?
Matt.
No,
yeah.
no way. When you said,
like-
shut up, Maz, that wasn't directed at you.
All right. So we are coming back. Brady, you've got Weather Fools.
This blackstrap rum is starting to take hold.
All right, so you got
Share-
Weather Fools, and
Share
I
your
have.
screens if you got weather fools, please.
Jockstrap rum?
I've got 6 Weather Fools.
Blackstrap.
6.
No.
Did you just say 6?
Jockstrap. That's gross.
I've got 2.
I have 3.
I gotta get them.
Oh my god.
Oh my
They'll be fat.
god.
People bringing it tonight.
Giggity.
No
I've
kidding.
got 2. Wait, I'm gonna write the names down in the chat. So we got Dina, we got Serena. I'm gonna try and do the math too.
17, I think we're up to, Brady.
Oh
Phil,
my
do you
god.
Longest show
You need
ever.
to tell
30
Phil to like
Yeah,
divide him
that
into
way.
two.
Phil, do you have one?
I'll whiz through them fast.
How many do
Yeah,
you
yours
have?
are quicker.
I
I have 2.
6.
Phil has
Good
6.
Yeah.
Lord. Good Lord. We are probably.
Does anyone
up
else
to
have any?
17.
No one else has any?
No.
Okay. That looks right.
12.
I gotta pull mine all up here. So hold on.
Yeah. Lucky 13 looks like.
Really? Shit. Hey, don't forget to send them to me, guys. Send me the links. I know I got Dina's.
Is Phil like whispering to anyone else?
Oh, his
I'm
mic's
just-
down.
I'm not
Yes.
holding it up
Okay.
here.
It's like,
Whisper.
what song is it, Phil?
Send us your stuff.
What?
What song are we coming into?
You're coming into the Who, remember?
Oh, well,
Only
we
see
switched it up last
Serena's
time.
screen. Hello.
Oh, because it was Christmas.
Yeah.
I only
missed
see
that one.
Serena's screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna
sharing,
do
I'm
mine.
sharing.
And now Dina's.
I'm gonna do.
And now
I'm gonna do
Brady's.
something with mine here. Hold on. It takes me a little while to pull up 6 Weather Fools.
I know, and I had to reboot when I crashed there. So I had to bring them all up again.
Where's my no?
I'm gonna pull one out of Phil's book and just hold my mic up like this.
Was it boot or a boot?
It's nice.
A boot.
Get out.
Good
boot.
bass.
I'm going to
Good
present.
bass in the voice.
I feel like we're a part of a casino band type of thing.
All right.
I'm not gonna be the one counting cards because I.
So
can't do
all right,
that.
so we're doing that. Then Dina potty
All right.
mouth forecast. So this is where we're kind of searching the dark web and looking for clips of our weather friends that might have been saying some inappropriate material that got discarded and was maybe never seen by the public. That kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
So I got one to play there, and then MJ Freak Fan Box.
Sure, I got 2.
All right, and then everybody got their closing scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brady, are you ready?
Why not?
All right. Coming in, and let me check my volume. 3, 2.
Who is that? That's the Who. Who am I? I'm Brady. Who is this or what is this segment? This is Weather Fools. I don't know why I'm talking in question marks, but I'm going to stop. So what is this segment for those that it's your first time on the show? Well, It is Weather Fools, and it is us as the Storm Point Freaks. We're going on the internet. We're going on the dark web, as Phil likes to say. We're looking for, videos, photos, really anything where someone is doing something not so smart and it deals with the weather. Dina, I understand you have two, and guys, guess what? There's going to be a lot of Weather Fools tonight, so buckle up. Dina, who is your Weather Fool this week?
Okay, this is a title called Man Surfs Behind a Car After Heavy Downpour Hits Northern California.
Yes.
So
Always
we
smart.
know that there's been that atmospheric river, bringing all that rain, but
Jeez,
this
he's
guy's
going,
getting
too.
pulled on a
Holy
surfboard
cow.
by a car down the road.
They're not
You
just
know,
He's
this
going
is
by a lot
moving.
of cars.
That's
Like,
really
he could be
Yeah, like,
hydroplaning.
I don't know how he doesn't, maybe he crashes around the corner here, but
nothing could go
it's
wrong.
ridiculous.
Don't
It's
stop
an accident
fast.
waiting to happen, or you
Oh,
either
God,
get
that'd be horrible.
the car gets in an accident.
Keep
or
watching
maybe-
this, because he's got to turn. Doesn't he have to turn up ahead, turn
yeah,
right?
it looks
Looks
like
like
they're
they do,
they would
yeah.
go out to
that,
the ocean.
that guy's got to go
here at the
flying
end.
into that palm tree.
There's a
Yeah.
white
Right.
van, look, right there, that goes
Right,
right in
yeah.
front of him. And it's just like,
And I
what
was
the
waiting
heck
to
do
see
now?
a crash, but I'm like, oh my god, really? And it doesn't look. It's very flooded, but it doesn't look so deep that if he falls,
Yeah.
he's not going to crack his head open. So
No, that's
me
cool.
being a mom, you're going to break your head open. But I do have one more, and this is funny. This was
Worse
a
than
TikTok
shooting your
one
eye out.
too, where this kid's got this. He's at the beach and he's got this pool, inflatable pool. So he
Yeah,
thinks
put
he's
your
going to be
computer
really,
in there.
really
Oh.
cool. He's going to almost be on a couch with popcorn, a drink, a
no.
blankie, and his
Oh,
his
God, look at the
laptop.
wave
And then
coming.
here comes a big wave,
Holy
and it totally
Oh.
just gets him. I'm like,
Oh, my
he's,
gosh.
he's all full of water. I mean, we got to watch this again.
Oh.
I mean, he even puts his pillow, his laptop, everything, popcorn. He
Got
thought
his
he was.
munchies.
Oh yeah, he's like, look at me.
No
I'm
life
This is
preserver.
great, and you can see it coming
And you
behind
can
him.
see the
building
wave coming.
behind him.
And he
Oh
looks
my
behind him,
God.
and I'm like, oh my god. I just thought that was
Oops.
so funny. I'm like,
I like how
Whoever
the-
was filming, turned and ran or something.
Yeah.
You were
Freaking out.
panicky. I like how the title
Yeah.
is Natural Selection at its finest.
That
yes,
is-
exactly. But I
Oh,
laughed.
the-
I laughed my ass off when I saw that one.
The biggest loser was the whatever mom has bought that laptop, because you're gonna have to buy
Oh.
another one. That
Yeah.
laptop is toast. But Dina, those were pretty great. I understand we have several other weather fools. It's been a busy couple of weeks here. Apparently, Serena, who are your weather fools this week?
Yeah, I've got a few. We're going to focus on Northern California here still with all the flooding that's taking place there. So here's just a video of Highway 101, which if you don't
Ooh.
know, and San
It's the 101.
Francisco, yeah, it's like the main highway. And it's up, it's up touching the bottom of
They
the
look
cars
like
at
they're on a
least.
boat.
That's not a highway.
Yeah, no, it's just this massive highway. It's multiple lanes, and you see it's just completely underwater, but people are still driving through it there.
I think I saw a
And-
shark.
And then here's
He's not in his lane either. I noticed that.
Oh no, certainly not. And then we've got another one here where once again driving through lots of flooded
Lord.
water, and you can see
Why?
debris and stuff. Look at this tree.
And
There's
look
a
at how
tree.
high that is.
And look how fast he goes. Now it's not as fast as Dina's video. I thought this one was a quick one until I saw Dina's, but you can see debris in the water. You see trees ahead of him, and he's just hauling butt, spraying
Yeah. He's
water
got a wake.
everywhere. Oh my God. Yeah. So that's a weatherful. So the last one
Come
isn't
on.
a video, but this one I really like because the mayor of San Francisco accused the National Weather Service office, the Bay Area office, of not warning them in advance of these powerful storms that are coming. There's these atmospheric rivers and this bomb cyclone on Wednesday that, has affected the area. And they were like, they didn't tell us this was going to be happening. And they came back and were like, excuse me, we were there 10 days before your planning meeting on the 28th and said that this was going to be happening. And it was
I
awesome.
love it.
I loved it because
I'm
the weather always
oh,
takes the
that's awesome.
excuses in so many places with government and aviation and all that. Weather Service stood up and said, wrong, we told you, and I love
We'll
it.
be here
So-
long after you're gone there, buddy.
Exactly. So the mayor
That's
of
a good
San
one.
Francisco is today's weather fool for
Way
me.
to
It
go, San
stripes and
Francisco and
diagonals.
WS. You got to give
Bitter.
them a
Dina's
slow
kind of
clap.
bitter.
I mean,
Well,
all you gotta go.
people always try to cast blame, and these guys have been on it. That
Yep.
we've been watching that forecast a long time.
Yep.
No, I mean, even in Day After Tomorrow, it happened, right? You remember when they were predicting, and they're just like, "No,
Yeah, right,
no, you stupid
right.
weather guy, get out of here, you big nerd."
It's the
You know, we're more-
neutrinos.
Yeah, come on. Well, Serena, those were pretty great. I'm going to get to Phil because I understand Phil is an overachiever tonight. Phil, do you have 6 weather fools?
I've got a few. I'll get through them quick. So the first one, this was in Florida, Madeira Beach. And this person on their balcony, obviously you can see on the still that storm coming through, very low visibility because of the rain. But as I play this,
Oh God.
Oh my!
a little bit of a
there's-
lightning
Oh.
strike, rather
Wow.
close.
Wow.
Like that was
I
close.
almost feel like I'm getting a
was-
shock.
You can feel it.
Holy
Yes.
shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the alcohol.
Yeah, so that was a close one. All right, the next one, this was in Seattle recently, and this hill, the residential hill, apparently was pretty slick. So I'm going to play this.
Oh.
Oh
Oh.
God,
Shiny.
that person,
Looks
that
like
person,
it.
Jesus.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
so this car is trying to make it down the hill and really has no hope of
no.
steering
Oh,
or
good Lord, here
stopping.
it comes. Wham, wham.
There it goes.
Bumper
Oh.
cars.
going anywhere.
Game.
Oh my God.
Bumper cars.
Oh my God.
Taking out some trash cans.
And meanwhile, there
Oh,
was
there
a guy
there
up at
comes
the
And
top of the hill
lots of
trying to
other
walk down
cars.
the sidewalk.
Yeah.
That didn't work out well.
So there's a lot going on here. So as we play it again, notice the guy that's trying to walk but is slipping that almost gets hit initially.
and, then
And
he
he's
falls
like
again,
falling
yeah.
down because he can't stay on the hill on the sidewalk.
Boom,
This guy
boom.
bumps
Wow.
the Amazon
He hit
truck.
Everything on the
And
way
he's just
down.
The
picking up
Amazon
speed
truck
coming
was
down.
parked. Did you guys realize that Amazon
Oh,
truck
yeah.
was parked?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
now
there it
it's
comes.
now it hit the white van was parked. So they're all moving down the hill.
Oh.
Holy cow. That's like dominoes.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
Mm.
Good. All right, next one. So we've had a couple turnaround, don't drown. This is British Columbia here recently in an underpass. And it's just completely, the underpass is completely submerged. These vehicles are up past their headlights
Oh my God.
going through this water. And I'm wondering, what are these people, like he's looking at his GPS, right? Well, it says to go this way. Like, this is the way I'm
Right.
supposed to, you know.
Oh my God.
It's
Wow.
the idiocy of following the GPS and not realizing that you're going to stall.
This is not okay.
No.
All right, then let's go up to Buffalo.
Hey, there we go.
Remember,
that. No.
Buffalo had the travel ban, and here's a drone shot or an elevated shot of a busy road going through residential Buffalo. But as you can see, there's like a plowed path that curves all over the
Winds
place
Through, yes.
because it's got to curve past all the trucks and cars that are
Yep,
under
that are
snow
stranded.
and
Wow.
yeah.
Quite the zigzag. That's awesome.
So that
It
travel
is.
ban didn't work so well. The next one I'm going to share with you is rather recent. It's a storm chaser that was
Oh, I
live
saw-
streaming, and I'm going to play this. And so this was their live stream of their storm chase, and I don't really know. I don't think it's known yet whose fault, what's going on, other than the fact that as he's driving, you'll start to see some brake lights up ahead, which kind of tells you that, hey, we probably start slowing down a little bit or something's going on up ahead in front of you, even though the visibility's tough because it's raining out. But unfortunately, there's
There
a
they are.
car,
Oh.
so there are the brake lights.
Oh, yeah. Stop. Oh my God.
And there's a
God.
car
Oh, good
dead
Lord.
stop right in front of him in the lane,
Oof.
and he
You
hit
know,
it.
Phil, I think I did see this, and I think he messaged on Twitter that he admitted it was his fault, and he said he was sorry, but people were like really all over him about this.
Yeah, there are just a lot of two sides. The one thing I saw the tweet from him, and maybe there's another one, but the tweet that I saw was that the individual that was stopped in the middle of the highway, had said that, yeah, he was at fault. He had stopped. It sounded like maybe he might have been drinking. I don't know. But supposedly he said fled the scene after the accident.
Ouch.
Yeah,
But I've
that's
seen
right.
other stuff too. So I don't know maybe who's at fault, who's not at fault. But I do have one more to share with you, and this one's got to come with a little audio. Because this you have to really hear to understand. But so this was in Iowa during a blizzard in Waterloo, and this news station needed to go to their sports guy to do some broadcasting on site from the blizzard. So
Deep on the bench.
Awesome.
This
This
was
was
great.
awesome.
Again,
Already.
the same way I felt about 8
Oop, can't hear that, can you?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
minutes ago when you asked me that same question, right? I normally do sports. Everything is canceled here for the next couple of days. So what better time to ask the sports guy to come in about 5 hours normally,
So, I mean, he
earlier
speaks
than
the
he would
truth,
normally
right?
wake up, go stand out in the wind and the snow and the cold and tell other people not to do the same. I didn't even realize that there was a 3:30 also in the morning until today. It's absolutely fantastic, Ryan. You know, I'm used to these evening shows that are only 30 minutes long, and generally on those shows I'm inside. So this is a really long show.
He
Tune in
is
for the
the
next
best.
couple hours to
I
watch
love
me
this guy.
progressively get crankier and crankier. How do I get that Storm Chaser 7 duty? I feel like Clint got the better end of that deal. You know, that thing's heated. The outdoors currently is not heated. Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is that I can still feel my face right now. The bad news is I kind of wish I couldn't. Can I go back to my regular job? I'm pretty sure, Ryan, that you guys added an extra hour to this show just because somebody likes torturing me, because compared to 2.5 hours ago, it is just getting colder and colder. Live in Waterloo for the last time this morning. Thankfully, I'm Mark Woodley, News 7 KWWL.
Sounds like
Mark,
his
how you
face
feeling
is
out
So
there?
crazy.
yeah, so
He's
how many
awesome.
how many people are actually right? That's what they're actually thinking while they're out there doing this
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
That's
He
brilliant.
went viral.
That's really
He was
good.
fabulous.
God, I love
Now
that.
they're going to want him to do it just because he was so funny.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we have. So I've got actually 2 Weatherfuls this week, and we'll quickly hit those, and then we'll get to our next segment here. So the first Weatherful, I don't know if you guys saw this, but this was actually about the same time frame as the Buffalo snowstorm that Phil showed. But this was tweeted out by the West Seneca Police Department, and
God.
this was I even saw this on Twitter. And there was part of me that was thinking this was real. I know, like now looking at it, right? Like you're like, there's no way. But with the amount of snow we got, I didn't know. And I even looked at some of the comments, and one of the comments was, wow, that picture almost looks photoshopped with how high the snowbank is. And then they said crazy, right? And I'm like, I read that and I was like, oh my God, it is real. And I'm like, no way. And then of course, they come out with a couple of comments. This is 100% Photoshop, but the weather fools are the people like me that actually believe that this was a real script. I was even showing my family.
Those are big snowbanks. Those are.
Those
are.
Oh,
Like 2-story snowbanks.
yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty fun. And then this second one actually, this doesn't actually have any weather in it. I'll make it full screen here. But this was because
But we
in
needed something else to show. Right?
Australia, there was a big
Short.
heat wave, which apparently makes the animals pretty rowdy here. So I'll
There you
just
go.
let this play.
You're
I don't
Rowdy
even
or
know what's
Randy?
gonna
What are they doing?
I don't even know what's going to play, but basically for those that are on the audio podcast, it was my dad got jumped by a kangaroo today, and it was a guy fighting a kangaroo. So don't worry, we'll have that video.
Yeah, the guy
as well.
comes and runs around the corner and gets jumped by a
Yep.
kangaroo.
There's so many
so-
videos though of kangaroos like fighting and doing crazy stuff anymore.
Pretty mean. I think.
I
Are they aggressive? I don't know. Everything in Australia wants to kill you,
Kill
even
you.
the fuzzy
I know.
kangaroos.
Yeah.
Right. Just,
Even
just
the
wanted to
cute
give the daily reminder
kangaroos.
that Australia is a fun but dangerous place. Well, guys, we're going to have the links to all of those. There's going to be a lot of them, so really entertaining show notes to look at. Go to stormfrontfreaks.com. Look for episode 174. Look specifically at the show notes.
All right. I got to love that song. But this is part of the Potty Mouth Forecast. So we search the dark web. We find audio clips of, inappropriate material that might not have gotten heard by the public. Maybe somebody didn't turn their mic off or, had a little problem in the bathroom, didn't turn their mic off. Maz is smiling because I have a feeling he probably did this. So
Been there,
You know,
done that. Yeah.
sometimes you say things and you forgot you have a hot mic. So Phil, what do you got?
So I think you all are going to like this one tonight. So our lovely Serena Arnold.
Wait.
Oh.
Wait.
Has I found this? So Serena Arnold, if you don't know, and you should know if you're a listener to the show, but she's written a book called The Weather Story, a children's book, great book, and she actually for us recently sent me a reading of this children's book that we made available as a bonus episode. So you can find that on our podcast feed. But it's great because she actually reads the story, but then she adds some additional weather knowledge after each of these pages. Well, I don't know if she realized this, but she accidentally sent me a couple files. And the first one I listened to, my guesses was probably the first one she recorded, and then forgot that, wait, this is a children's book, and the audience maybe should be a little different. And so I'm like, wow, we gotta play this. Now I have edited the words out, like the bad words that she used, I've edited out, but I did want to share this with you. It's a clip of the reading, and then I'm gonna share the whole reading with our Patreon members. They're gonna get the whole thing, but this is a clip, so you guys might like this.
Let's dive in and talk a little bit about The Weather Story. Now, this is a book that I authored and illustrated as well. I did all the pictures for it. And I did it because my youngest niece, or one of my nieces, was afraid of thunderstorms. And I said, that's kind of crazy. She just needs a good book. And after looking to find some books out there, I didn't find any that I really liked. So I said, I'll write my own. So that's where we have The Weather Story. And that is with Francis Fox. So he's on every page, and he talks a little bit about his book. So we are surrounded by air from the ground to the sky. It covers us everywhere and goes very high. The air can seem damp and heavy, or it can be light and dry. What you're noticing is humidity, the percent of water vapor in the sky. So water vapor is actually water in its gas form. So water can be three forms. You can have a solid, liquid, or a gas. Solid would be like ice and snow. Liquid is water. And a gas you can't see. And if you have a lot of it, then it can feel really sticky.
So that's a clip, but
that's a good one.
Oh my god!
The unrated version.
Forgot.
The look on her face when you said it's like Serena, and she's like, "What?"
Oh.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no.
Her head popped up.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Francis Fox is on every flipping page apparently of the book.
That was
anyway. So you can currently the nice kitty version is actually on our podcast feed, but we'll make this adult version available for our Patreon members.
Kitty version.
Good book, Serena.
So
I tried really effing hard.
Okay, let's turn it over to, I think, MJ.
Send me a postcard, drop me a line. You've got mail, baby.
Yeah, we got mail. We're gonna keep it on the Serena storyline here
hell,
with our
guys.
Come on now. But we do hope, as I put this one up, this is a visual for our people who are watching, but also Kyle Lawler checked in, and you can see the pictures on there. Walked into my daughter's room this morning, and she's reading The Weather Story on her own. Thought you'd love to see this. Hopefully it's the kitty version.
Aww.
Right?
Oh, this was really
precious.
cute.
Yeah, that's a really cute little picture.
Adorable.
And thank you, Kyle, for sending that and chiming in. And then our other correspondence in the Freak Fan Box this week was from our own Kim Cunningham, former guest and former co-host. And of course, if you had a chance to listen to our bonus episode from with our top 10 Raw episodes, we also had the top 5 Raw moments. And of course, Kim Cunningham's skeletons was the number one. And so Kim chimed in and said, "Oh, this is such an honor. I laughed so hard again." So thank you for such a great opportunity. I miss you all. Happy New Year. And that comes from Kim. So thank you, Kim.
She's great.
For checking in.
She's so great.
Absolutely. So that's
if
the
you haven't, Maz and Brady too, if you guys hadn't listened to that top 10 episode that Jeremy Bauer did, You got to check that out. You guys would like it, and you're gonna
He put a lot of time
get a
into
kick
that.
out of it. Yeah, and he did, and it was really good. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it was very good.
So I think that just about does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks podcast. So thanks everybody for checking in and listening and watching.
Hey, before we announce the guest of our next episode, if you like the show, don't forget to follow us on our, and of course, it's on the podcast player. So if you get notified, you receive the latest episodes of our show delivered right away to your library the moment they get released. That's what happens. And please help us out and send a friend your favorite episode.
And guys, you can also subscribe to our YouTube page and watch previous versions of our Stormfront Freaks Raw recording, which are completely unedited. A little dangerous, I know, but you know what? You get the best of the freaks and the worst of the freaks. So you're going to hear all of the great conversations during the break, the great questions from our VIPs, and who knows what else gets censored or edited out of our audio podcast. Let me just say there's some good stuff in there. Just search Stormfront Freaks on YouTube or find a link on our website.
We'd also love to have you on our Patreon team. We love our Patreon members and appreciate your support of the show. In return, we'd like to offer some unique bonuses only for you. Visit stormfrontfreaks.com to find the Patreon link so you can join our Raw broadcasts, have access to exclusive merch, or even become one of our limited VIPs who are joining us this evening and be with us and our guests in the studio on each and every show.
Awesome. Special thanks to our guest tonight, Dr. Phil Klotzbach.
Hey.
Woo! Nice. And don't forget to check out all our new Stormfront Freaks merchandise. We have new hats, t-shirts, sweatshirt, tanks, and more with our Tornado logo, Weather Fools logo, and Weather Trollbot. You'll find it along with everything else at the stormfrontfreaks.com.
Yeah, did everybody notice that how much Mark loves talking about the Patreon members? You didn't get like you used love a couple times. It was good. It was like Barry White. Love. Hey, so freaks, let's find out how people can follow you guys and social media, all that stuff. Serena, I'll start with you.
Sure. Everything is WXCYRENA, Weather Serena. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
God, you're like the grand slam of social media there. Maz, are you on 4 different social media platforms?
If you drink twice and hold up Twitter, then you get 4 in there somehow. But yeah, so it's at Money. I almost forgot. Money Storm, the number 4 and U, the letter U. So.
Very good. All right, Brady.
You know, I've been kind of taking a break from social media. I'm just being real. I'm on the new app called Be Real. Search for, I think it's Bradley something. I don't even know. So just
great. Can't wait.
Real people know where to find me on Be Real. So I'll see you there.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, it's great. It essentially you get prompted randomly once throughout the day to take a photo, and you got to take it within 2 minutes. So you can't, there's no going in the mirror. There's no nothing. You're just taking it where you're at.
On the toilet.
So, yep. Tonight was doing the podcast.
On the toilet, you got to take a picture.
Took a nice picture of the freaks. And I don't think my eyes were closed, so that's good. But that's Be Real. You're being real.
So and you can't tell from that photo like what your Twitter or what your Be Real account name is. You're like Maz.
Wait. Oh yeah, it's Bradley 69. I don't know why I did that, but
Bradley 69.
That I'm not.
Brady Harris was taken, so I had to take. I don't know. I just came up with something random.
There's an infinite number of numbers.
I'm going to let that one go.
68 was taken.
Think of a number. I panicked.
68 was taken. Yeah, so it was just next in line. All right,
I'll let it go.
MJ.
I do all my Barry White impressions on Twitter at Mark Stormpod, MARC.
Perfect. All right, Dina.
I just can't stop. Right, I won't say it. I'm Lady Pilot 70 on Twitter and Dina OSU on Instagram.
All right,
70 was taken.
You can find me on Twitter.
I'll try to get 69, but
I'm tweeting at Stormfront Freak.
Oh my God. All right. So hey, on the next episode, we return live on January 19th. not 69th, to talk about storm chaser safety and emergency disaster response. We're going to be doing that with EMT Colin Belducci and SpaceX crew surgeon Keith Brandt. So Patreon members can join our raw video recording live, and the edited audio podcast will be available to everyone else the following weekend.
Very good. So for Serena and Maz, Brady, MJ, Dina, we still have Angela and where did Dan go? Dan's gone, but Garrett's still here.
Not enough.
He probably did give up on us. But
He's back
I'm going to
here.
go ahead and signal the all clear. We'll catch you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, Dina.
Longest
Lady
show
Pilot 69 is totally different than Lady Pilot 70. I didn't even think of that. I was like, oh my god.
I'm like, should I go there? I better not.
That's the booze.
I just sent my B-reel in the group chat so you guys can see it there.
But seriously, that B-reel, like seriously, what if you're taking a dump?
That the rules are B-reel. You got to take it within 2 minutes. So you got to do what you got to do. But
just keep
Or
it
you
a
get kicked
headshot.
off?
That's the important thing at that point.
Maz, it's the unwritten rules. B-reel is all about being real.
Don't use the wide panoramic photo when
Also,
you're in the bathroom.
never take a phone in the bathroom. Never.
There's Dan.
Where's that?
Hey, Dan, we missed you, buddy.
He's been waiting in the green room and he was scrolling off my screen, so I didn't.
Oh,
see him.
sorry. Oh, crap. So I'm sitting here. Where's Dan? He's like, I'm right fucking here. Sorry.
All right.
Oh Lord.
We're shutting her down, so we're not on live anymore.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
Josh,
Well,
Jeremy,
bye.